Sealed with a kiss, our Mary becomes Queen of Denmark, celebrated by millions. A vandal targets the southeast Woolies as tensions flare over the Australia Day merchandise controversy. The Queensland community feeling forgotten following wild weather, plus a fresh cyclone threat for our state. A local father's safety warning after his car self-locked, trapping his baby inside. The everyday grocery items doubling in cost. Tonight, when we'll see relief from soaring prices. Plus 50,000 vouchers up for grabs to help get storm-hit tourism operators back on track.
This is 9 News Queensland.
Good evening. Australia officially has its first Queen, with Hobart-born Mary Donaldson ascending to Denmark's throne alongside her husband. Thousands celebrated in the streets of Copenhagen, waving Danish and Aussie flags, making what was meant to be a low-key affair anything but.
A crowning glory, royally sealed with a kiss. To the delight of tens of thousands gathered outside Christiansborg Palace. King Frederick X and Queen Mary, Australian-born, now a Danish sovereign. This day has been decades in the making, but in line with the low-key style monarchy here, there was no coronation and little ceremony. But its significance for the Danes abundantly clear. Every vantage point a sea of red and white flags. And there were some true blue ones as well. Sheridan and her family, originally from Brisbane. What's it like being an Aussie in Copenhagen right now?
It's really exciting. It's fun walking around with a kangaroo because we stand out.
Mary's such an amazing role model for young girls all over the world, and she's so elegant both in her style and her actions.
The historic occasion began at the Amalienborg Palace, with the changing of the guard before the changing of the throne. Visitors on the freezing morning given a warm welcome from down under.
Today, I think Australians want to show their support for the new King and Queen.
It was just after 1:30 when crowds had their first glimpse of Mary waving from the car on the way to Christiansborg Palace, along with Frederick and their son, 18-year-old Christian, the incoming heir. Close behind them, the much-loved and long-serving Margrethe II, riding in a 19th century golden wedding carriage made for the 50th anniversary of her great-great-grandparents. The mood jubilant. Most throne accessions are sombre after the death of a monarch, but today, with the first voluntary abdication in 800 years, it was all celebration. The official proceedings started and finished within minutes. Queen Margrethe signed the Declaration of Abdication at a Council of State meeting in Christiansborg. Frederick invited to take her seat. God save the king, she said, and she left the palace, letting her son have the moment. And what a moment it was. An emotional Frederick greeting crowds from the balcony. He wiped away tears as the Prime Minister officially proclaimed him king, with 9 hurrahs, echoed by the Danish people. His speech was brief. It's a responsibility I take on with respect, pride and great joy, he said. I'm going to need all the support I can get from my beloved wife, from my family, from you. Then he was joined by his queen, dressed in an elegant white gown, and the reaction was loud and clear. Their 4 children then emerged, a united family front, following questions in recent days about the state of the couple's marriage. Frederick and Mary holding hands arm in arm. That kiss today and those tears reminiscent of their 2004 wedding. While Frederick was born into royalty, this completes an extraordinary journey for his wife. When she first came here, she was Mary Donaldson. Now she's greeted as Queen Mary. 3 visitors from Sydney among those celebrating coming within metres of royalty. What was it like seeing them go past?
Amazing. Beautiful. Could not have got a better view. In 10, 20, 50 years, we'll be thinking we were there when Mary became Queen. And Frederick too, I guess, is there.
Well wishes coming too from other royal families. King Charles saying, I look forward to working with you on ensuring that the enduring bond between our countries and our families remains strong. As a display of 5,000 fireworks lit up the skies over Copenhagen, Australian celebrations went into the night.
Even though, yes, we've had to hand her over, sort of officially, she will always, have a place in our heart.
In Copenhagen, Brett McLeod, 9 News.
Live to Europe correspondent Brett McLeod now, who's in Copenhagen. Brett, what's next for the new King and Queen?
Well, Ash, after those extraordinary scenes yesterday where it's estimated over 100,000 people crammed into the old town of Copenhagen, today one more low-key event for the royal couple. They'll leave here at Amalienborg and they'll head to the Danish Parliament where there'll be an official reception for them by MPs and the Prime Minister. So that completes the engagements to mark their rise to the throne. There's a light dusting of snow falling now, so here in the land of Hans Christian Andersen, it's a bit of a fairy tale finish, Ash.
A beautiful day, Brett. Thanks very much. You're lucky to be there. Well, Australians certainly haven't forgotten Mary's roots, watching from their living rooms as the girl from Tasmania became Denmark's new queen. Mary's cousin Jacqueline overwhelmed with pride.
I actually don't know how to put it into words of how proud we all are of her. I really don't. It's very emotional and it's a very big time for the family.
Tasmanian landmarks lit up. And a paddle out was held today in Hobart to mark the historic moment. Locals showing their support by leaving written well wishes at Government House. Police are tonight hunting a disgruntled shopper who vandalised a southeast Woolworths store over its decision to pull Australia Day merchandise from its shelves. Olivana Lathoris is at the shop in Tenerife. Ollie, what damage has been done?
Aislin, thankfully a lot of the damage that was done has since been cleared up. However, the vandal responsible for this was caught in the act on CCTV, which we can show you now. You can see him here spray painting a message right across the front of the building, and then he actually lights a flare and sticks it inside the automatic doors of the shopping centre. That explosion then triggering fire alarms. More than 100 residents who live in the apartment block here getting a pretty rude wake-up call for their Monday, forced to evacuate. We spoke to a few of those weary-eyed residents today. Take a listen.
I looked at my phone, it was around 4:30 or 4 o'clock, and yeah, we all had to get evacuated from the building, so feeling a bit disoriented.
Well, a couple of hours before my alarm usually goes off.
Now, thankfully, no one was injured in this and the graffiti has since been removed, although a lot of people have spoken to us and said they were quite hurt to see the message that was here. It does appear to be in support of January 26 Australia Day, and that does seem to be interpreted as a retaliation against a message from Woolworths, an announcement saying that they would no longer be continuing to supply Australia Day merchandise. Aldi is another major supermarket that has since followed suit, and that has generated a lot of controversy, particularly online. Woolworths has now issued a statement in relation to this incident, saying that there is no cause for vandalism and they will be working very closely with Queensland Police to ensure the person responsible for this is held to account. Aislin?
Ollie, thank you. Far North Queensland residents in one of the areas hardest hit by December's disastrous downpours feel they've been left high and dry. A month on, they're calling for practical emergency accommodation, frustrated at the lack of pace within the recovery timeline. Welcome to Dagara in the state's far north. Less than 100 people live here, their homes nestled amongst dense rainforest. Up here, isolation is a part of the lifestyle, but in the aftermath of December's deluge, they've never felt so alone.
I didn't expect any help, I just needed some help. We just needed help, that's all.
Michelle and Billy Dunn barely made it out of their home when a torrent of water swept in and up, forcing them to crawl out of a window, clinging to a tree for hours to survive.
We were left. Look what we have to keep looking at every day.
Houses destroyed, muddied belongings piled outside. Dagara is a disaster zone and locals just want to get stuck into the cleanup. But with power down and roads wrecked, it's nearly impossible without serious help.
We can provide assistance for countries overseas within a matter of days. But our own residents in this country are now been waiting over a month.
Mayor Michael Kerr says emergency accommodation organised by the Housing Department isn't cutting it, claiming caravans have been delivered to the region, but the government won't park them on private property.
It's clearly bureaucracy gone crazy. I mean, here we are, we've got caravans sitting 3 hours walk away from where these residents are.
The Premier says with roads badly damaged, it's risky driving too much machinery in too soon. And until power, sewerage and water are restored to Dagara, the vans can't go there.
There's also been a suggestion now from the council of a road reserve that they own in Dagara, and the Housing Department will consider whether it's possible and appropriate to put the caravans there.
They need the road access, they need to make sure that they have access to services, they need mental health support, they need it today.
Straight to Lily Greer at Newstead now. Lily, is there any relief in sight for this community?
Well, Aislin, an update tonight for residents up that way. The Douglas Shire Council has been locked in discussions with the Queensland Reconstruction Authority and the Housing Department late into this afternoon. What Council wants is these vans to be moved onto private properties and council-owned road reserves closer to where these struggling residents are at the moment. But they say so far the Housing Department isn't budging. Discussions are tonight ongoing into the possibility of finding a safe and appropriate location for these vans to go. The Reconstruction Authority says Council has access to $1 million in grants to address the local needs of the residents there, and Council says it will be making use of that $1 million. In the meantime, what sort of weather will residents up there be dealing with as they try to battle their way back from this disaster? Well, unfortunately, the Bureau of Meteorology says that tomorrow there is the chance for severe thunderstorms and heavy rainfall in that region. As for the southeast, well, there is the possibility of thunderstorms down this way too. Aislin, we're going to have your full weather wrap up a little later in the bulletin.
We'll see you soon, Lily. Thank you. A man has been airlifted to hospital after he was stung by an irukandji jellyfish on Gari this afternoon. The man in his 20s was flown to the Hervey Bay Hospital in a stable condition. Meanwhile, Queensland Rangers are reminding people to take extra precautions around dingoes after a man was bitten on his leg on Gari this morning. The incident occurring after the man got out of his car at Hook Point. Barge staff came to his assistance. Rangers are now working to confirm the identity of the dingo involved to determine the next steps. Thousands of Queenslanders ended up paying double their car registrations after a blunder saw duplicate notices issued to more than 16,000 residents. Premier Stephen Miles says refunds are being processed as quickly as possible.
They've contacted everybody who has been affected. They've refunded wherever possible, and they're in contact with everyone who's affected.
The Premier says the incident was a human error. Foreign Minister Penny Wong is tonight on her way to the Middle East for a week-long visit marking 100 days since the October 7 Hamas terror attack on Israel. Minister Wong will use her trip to renew calls for a ceasefire and advocate for the avoidance of further regional conflict.
Australia is not a central player in the Middle East, but we are a respected voice. And I'll be using our voice to advocate for a pathway out of this conflict.
Ms Wong will meet survivors of the October 7 attack, as well as Palestinians impacted by Israeli settler violence in the West Bank. The industrial standoff over pay at our ports could stretch for months, threatening jobs and the cost of clothes and white goods. Tonight, DP World and the unions are calling for intervention to end the dispute and prevent price rises.
Problems at our ports tonight, a warning there's worse to come.
We expected this to go on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and maybe months and months and months, and there's an escalation of that and a snowball effect on that.
DP World is one of our major port operators, with clothing and white goods for major retailers flowing in, while Australian meat and produce is leaving our shores. The company prices the dispute at $84 million every week, a cost that now could be bound for consumers.
We need to make sure that we've got goods moving around the country.
Tonight, rolling 2-hour stoppages continue, plus longer pauses in some ports.
So that's a little bit like parking a truck in a drive-through at McDonald's and saying, look, I'm parking this one here.
We need politicians in Australia to stop dancing to the tune of the royal family of Dubai and back Australian workers.
The current offer is for an 8% sign-on bonus, followed by an 8% pay rise for the current year and 8% next year, plus added super, with company figures putting the average current wage around $130,000 per year. The union's banking on unity between Australia's shippers and shoppers.
Pay rises for Australian families means money in the Australian economy, in all of our local economies around the country.
Both sides want government intervention, but tonight there's no sign of that.
We think all parties should come back to the table and negotiate in good faith. We do know that this needs to be resolved as quickly as it can be.
While it's the ports threatening prices, the government may choose the supermarkets for intervention, with an ACCC investigation now looming. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
8 months after the attack, the government has revealed the Prime Minister's Office, Reserve Bank and Australia Post were among the agencies which had data stolen by Russia-linked hackers. The information was in the 2.5 million documents stolen from servers of law firm HWL Ebsworth in April. Compromised in the hack, national security information and private medical data of vulnerable people. A young boy is in hospital in Darwin after being attacked by a crocodile at the weekend. It's believed the 9-year-old was bitten while swimming in a remote area of the Kakadu National Park near the main township of Jabiru, which isn't accessible to the general public. He was airlifted to Darwin Hospital in a critical but stable condition. The identity of one of the men killed in a light plane crash in the scenic rim has been revealed. 69-year-old David Briffa and an 82-year-old man on board both died at the scene yesterday after the aircraft came down just outside the Boona Golf Club. David is tonight being remembered as a very valued member of the community and local flying school.
He's well known, a really well-known guy. He's a lovely fellow, a real gentleman, a guy who's done a lot for people just on the quiet. He's helped so many people and not told anyone about it.
Another friend who also spoke to 9 News has described David's death as a loss to humanity. Tourism frenzy. Next, the government's plan to help Gold Coast operators bounce back after weeks of wild weather. A sad update following a deadly shooting at a US school. Why Princess Anne has become a surprise men's fashion icon. And at the end of sport, the Aussie company on a mission to clean up outer space. Tens of thousands of discounted theme park tickets and holiday experiences on the Gold Coast are tonight up for grabs. Let's go live to Isabel Quinlan at Wet n Wild in Oxenford. Izzy, this sounds great. How can we cash in on the deals?
It's as simple as picking an experience, Aislin, and applying the discount coupon GC Summer Funds at the checkout. There are 50,000 $50 vouchers up for grabs, and it's not just for Gold Coast locals, but for residents right across the southeast. And there's an endless list of activities and experiences you can choose from. You can come to the theme parks like Wet n Wild, where I am tonight, stand-up paddle boarding, skydiving, and you can even do a tour of the scenic rim. It's all about injecting some much-needed cash back into the city after what has been a chaotic couple of weeks following the devastating Christmas night storms. Overall, it will be a $2.5 million boost. Tourism operators are thrilled.
Having lost so much business during that summer period, just getting that income through February and March is going to just balance it out, which will help us through that winter period.
Aislin, you'll want to snap up this deal pretty quick because it ends on March 29 or until sold out.
Sounds like a great deal, Izzy. Thank you very much. A school principal who was shot while trying to protect his students during a school shooting in the US earlier this month has died from his injuries. One student was killed and 7 people injured when a 17-year-old student opened fire. Princess Anne has become a men's fashion icon, with high-end Italian brand Fendi using her as a muse for its latest collection at the Milan Fashion Week. The designer labelling her the chicest woman in the world. There you go. Supermarket surge. Tonight we reveal the grocery products that have doubled in price as the cost of living continues to bite. When we'll see relief from soaring prices, plus expert tips on how to save at the counter. That story's ahead. Volcano emergency. Extraordinary scenes as lava swallows a town, homes catching fire. The mission to rescue a baby after claims a car self-locked, trapping the 3-month-old inside. And a Critics' Choice gong for an Aussie Succession star. A A community in Iceland's southwest has evacuated as a volcanic system erupted for the second time in a month. Homes in the fishing town of Grindavik burst into flames as the Reykjanes Peninsula volcano spewed 1,200-degree molten lava. No lives were in danger. After months of campaigning, we're now less than 24 hours from the official start of the race to the White House. As we go to air tonight, former US President Donald Trump holds a significant lead in the key battleground state of Iowa. But come tomorrow, those who can bear the cold will have their say.
A convoy through the snow-covered cornfields. It seems far away, but it's here in Iowa where the race to the White House begins.
Saving America begins with President Trump and begins tomorrow here in Iowa.
The caucuses mark the first test of the 2024 election cycle, not just because they'll be the coldest on record.
It is freezing cold here.
But because the outcome can help build or break a candidate's momentum.
But these caucuses are your personal chance to score the ultimate victory over all of the liars, cheaters, thugs, perverts, frauds, crooks, freaks, creeps, and other quite nice people.
In a final push to secure support, the former president was armed with a large pile of pizzas and tonight an even larger lead in the polls.
Next to God, he's one of the greatest men going. He's the best president I think we ever had in the United States.
The question is, will it be a race to second place for Donald Trump's rivals, or could Iowa reshape this race?
The momentum and the energy on the ground is strong.
You have the ability to change the trajectory of American politics.
On a night where turnout matters, it's the weather, which is rapidly becoming every candidate's biggest threat. Who can convince the most Iowans to caucus in this unbearable cold?
Do you think that cold's going to stop people from caucusing tomorrow?
Definitely.
Voters must place their ballot in person. With that rule, it's a cold caucus ahead.
So brave the weather and go out and save America, because that's what you're doing. Even if you vote and then pass away, it's worth it.
In Des Moines, Iowa, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
Aussies have won big at the 29th Critics' Choice Awards in LA. Elizabeth Debicki took out Best Supporting Actress in a Drama Series for her role as Diana in The Crown. And Sarah Snook won Best Actress in a Drama Series for Succession.
This job was extraordinary and such a joy to go into work every day and play dress-ups, really.
Margot Robbie missed out, but her film Barbie took home Best Comedy. Vehicle safety concerns. We speak to the Queensland parents who claim they were locked out of their own car with their baby trapped inside. That's next. The supermarket products that have doubled in cost, plus predictions on when prices will drop. The moment a surfer rescues a roo being swept out to sea. And out of this world, at the end of sport, how Aussie engineers are cleaning up space. Checking finance now, and the stock market closed lower. The All Ords down 40 points. Our dollar is buying 66 US cents. The average price for unleaded petrol in Brisbane is $1.91, diesel $1.93. The average price of unleaded on the Gold Coast is $1.76. A young Southeast family claims a safety flaw caused their baby to become trapped in their high-tech car. Skoda is investigating their claims the car self-locked with the infant and keys inside.
Locked inside the family car on a 30-degree day.
And that's my baby inside the car, and we can't actually get to him.
Young Beanley parents Lewis and Sarah are frantically trying to retrieve their 3-month-old son after they say their Skoda Kodiaq locked itself on Friday afternoon with the keys inside.
She got out of the car, and then I got out of the car and went around to where our baby was in the car seat. And by the time I got around there, the doors were locked. Just terrible as a parent to know your kid's stuck in the car. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
The driver's window eventually shattered by police.
He was crying, he was pretty upset. He felt pretty warm as well.
Their baby cleared by paramedics, fear turned to confusion.
Key not detected. See, this is the thing. Key not detected.
despite both sets of keys still sitting in the centre console from a recent service.
This particular case certainly sounds like some type of malfunction.
Normally when you lock the car, the mirrors fold in, and this time the mirrors are still folded out. So it's almost like the car was in a weird state.
Lewis and Sarah are too scared to put their child back inside the car ever again. Even if they wanted to, they don't know if they'll ever be able to remove every shard of glass sprayed throughout the vehicle.
Seems pretty unsafe to me. So, yeah, at this time I'm trying to get a refund.
Skoda says it's arranging a loan vehicle for the family, but has told 9 News our cars lock and unlock no differently to vehicles from any number of brands. We're not aware of an issue such as the one described, but will attempt to replicate it as part of the investigation.
We've seen this particular issue happen quite a bit on Skodas and other cars. We've seen almost identical scenario overseas. Keep your fob in your pocket at all times. That way you've always got it wherever you are.
Claire Todd-Hunter, 9 News.
Bounding off the rocks straight into trouble. A kangaroo needed a helping hand to keep its head above water today, and a surfer was the one who answered the call, paddling out to the roo and bringing it ashore at a New South Wales beach. The animal taking about an hour to recover before it returned to the bush, where it will no doubt be much more comfortable. Well, Jonathan Uptin has hopped down to the Australian Open for us. Jono, we have a Queenslander through to the second round.
Yes, we do, Aislin. Clear skies here today, but look, there was a perfect storm as qualifier Storm Hunter marched through the first round in straight sets. Also, an injured Bronco quickly back on deck at Red Hill.
Lots of rain around today and plenty of humidity. Bad start to the working week after a beautiful weekend. There's also the chance for thunderstorm in Brisbane tomorrow. We'll have all your weather details coming up very soon.
Good evening. Former world number one Naomi Osaka will make her return to Grand Slam tennis tonight in a star-studded evening session here at Melbourne Park that also includes Alex de Minaur. But there's already been success for the Aussies. Queenslander Storm Hunter progressing to the second round.
Storm Hunter is the #1 doubles player in the world, but the Aussie had never made the singles second round at her home slam.
There's the set.
She was far too much for former Grand Slam finalist Sarah Arani, advancing in the Melbourne Park main draw for the first time in 11 attempts.
She's done it.
To win my first round in singles it's a dream come true. I've been kind of waiting for it for a few years, so very happy to get it done here today.
Reigning US Open champion Coco Gauff moved on with ease. World number 3 Daniel Medvedev is often painted as the villain, but showed compassion for his emotional opponent. Terence Atman became increasingly frustrated with cramps, forced to retire. And Stefanos Tsitsipas started slow, but pulled out all his tricks to prevail over lucky loser Zizou Bergs.
Oh, has he made it? Is it legit? What happened? I've seen it, but I do not believe it.
In the top 50 and rising, Alexei Popyrin powered past Mark Polmans in straight sets.
And Alexei Popyrin through to round 2.
It's never easy playing a fellow Aussie, especially a friend like Marky.
He will face Novak Djokovic next. The 10-time champion was pushed to 4 sets by 18-year-old qualifier Dino Prismic.
Oh, what a way to break.
The Croatian youngster reminding the Serbian icon of himself.
Very physical game. I mean, almost 4 hours for 4 sets. It felt at some point that I was playing myself in the mirror already. If he continues this way, he's going to have a very bright career ahead of him, no doubt.
Tom Marriott, 9 News.
Darius Avill's wildcard entry into the tournament was controversial, and the Australian won't see the second round at Melbourne Park. Despite a promising start against Pole Magdalena Freck, Saville was knocked out in 3 sets, going down 6-7, 6-3, 7-5. And it wouldn't be an Australian Open without an epic Jordan Thompson 5-set match. He and fellow Aussie Alex Vukic going toe-to-toe for a spot in the next round. Cameron Green burst onto the scene as Australian cricket's next big thing. And now, after 6 months out of the team, he says he's ready to live up to the tag. But it's not in the role he expected. Green revealing he was training to replace David Warner, not Steve Smith.
He scored a century and claimed a 5-wicket haul, but only now does Cameron Green believe he can kick-start his Test career.
I'm very excited. I think I've let all the guys know obviously how much I love playing at number 4 and obviously grateful for the opportunity to be able to do that.
He's played 24 Tests batting at 6, but since making his debut as a 21-year-old, selectors have always viewed Green as our next number 4.
What I like is I've got a bit of time. I've always felt maybe a touch rushed at 6, especially after Heady. He makes it look a bit too easy at number 5. So, yeah, I've always felt like I've maybe had to push the game along where I feel like number 4 is my natural game where, yeah, I can take my time and settle in.
It's an opportunity he didn't think he'd get. Losing the all-rounders role to Mitchell Marsh after suffering injury at the Ashes, Green had begun training for the top of the order.
I thought I was about 95% chance of opening, so that's where my head went for a couple of weeks.
Instead, Steve Smith took that spot, and part of his reason was getting Green back into the team, placing him squarely in the spotlight.
I don't feel any pressure. Obviously, replacing someone like Steve is pretty tough, but yeah, I'm just going to play my own way, but obviously I'm grateful for him putting that in his mind. It's always nice to hear, but you've got to also showcase it on the main stage, so yeah, I look forward to that.
Smith is adjusting to life at the top, leaving training today for a tea time with Usman Khawaja ahead of their first test together as openers. Sam Jordan, 9 News.
Good news for Broncos fans, with Jesse Arthurs already back training at Red Hill. The winger not doing a whole lot in the rain this morning with his injured ankle heavily strapped up. The injury keeping him out of action for a few weeks, but clearly it's not too serious, and he's expected to play in the club's first trial. The Dolphins will field a new-look backline this season. Jack Bostock among those eager to impress Wayne Bennett at pre-season training. After playing 4 games in the Dolphins' inaugural season, Bostock is working closely with Dally M Winger of the Year, Jermaine Osako, on ways to improve his game.
He's been around the game for a long time now, Jermaine, and he helps me out a fair bit at training just with a few extras. And I feel like mainly my positioning is where I can get a few things wrong sometimes, and he had really good positioning last year in, at both attack and defence. If I can just take a few things from him, that's going to help me out.
The Dolphins played their first trial match in Rockhampton on February 10. The Titans' fullback battle is down to 2, with AJ Brimson's muted move to the centres confirmed. Teammates believe it'll make Gold Coast's backline more potent.
For a guy like him, he's that fast off the mark that you give him an inch and he's off and gone. He'll be a centre's nightmare, opposition centre's nightmare. He just will.
Youngster Keanu Kinney is certainly impressing in his second pre-season, though Jaden Campbell is the favourite to wear the number 1 jersey. The Raw have snapped a 4-game losing streak, beating Newcastle to give coach Ben Kahn his first A-League win, a result he didn't see coming after the first 45 minutes.
We can't shy away from the fact that the first half was poor. We struggled to get ourselves into the game. We had to find a way to win, and the boys showed immense character today.
Brisbane came from behind twice before being gifted a 90th minute penalty, which Jay O'Shea converted. The Raw back at Suncorp Stadium hosting Macarthur on Thursday. Winners in their Asian Cup opener, the Socceroos insist they'll be taking Syria seriously in their second pool game on Thursday night.
All those nations in Asia, they're all improving, all of them. It's not like you can just turn up and we walk right past them. We have to work hard, we be focused. We need to play our good football.
Despite trailing 2-1, tournament favourites Japan fought back to kick off their campaign with a 4-2 win over Vietnam. Aislin, this is what we've all been looking forward to. Alex Diminoy out on Rod Laver Arena. Live coverage straight after 9 News.
Looking forward to all of that. Thanks very much, Jono. Well, Australia's first ever commercial satellite is about to make its first appearance, heading for California, where it'll be launched from SpaceX. It's hoped the groundbreaking technology will help keep our essential services online and stop space from becoming a dumping ground.
Outer space, an expansive void. But not as empty as you think. A dramatic increase in satellite launches and rising volumes of space debris now causing out-of-this-world chaos.
Not just with broken down satellites, but with collisions
we could be in a space where there would be no safe way for humans to travel to space.
Space Machines Company, along with the University of Technology Sydney, now on a mission to solve a universal problem.
More than 50% of satellites have failures in their first year of operations, and currently there is no solution. The only solution is to put more of them up there.
By 2030, there will be 70,000 satellites at risk of becoming space junk. But that's all about to change. Meet Optimus, a 250-kilogram satellite manoeuvrable from Earth, heading up a roadside assistance program in space.
Repairing, upgrading, disposing of satellites in orbit.
Rigorously tested and assembled over the past 4 months, it will now travel to Florida for takeoff.
This vehicle will go on the SpaceX Falcon rocket, and once it gets to space, it will separate.
This first orbital servicing vehicle will focus on inspecting satellites and diagnosing their issues. That data will then be used to fit out future Optimi with the tools needed for repairs.
One small step for Australia, one giant leap for the world. Madison Scott, 9 News.
In just 3 minutes, the grocery products that have doubled in price, putting a strain on household budgets. That story's just moments away. But first, Lily Greer is back now with the weather. Lily, it's cleared up in Brisbane this afternoon.
Yeah, it has, Aislin. Here in Newstead, the ground is still really wet, but there are plenty of people out and about making the most of the break in the rain. And didn't we see quite a lot of rain today right across the southeast? Unfortunately, these drizzly conditions are going to stick around for a large part of the week. We're going to have all your weather details coming up very soon.
As supermarket prices continue to surge, more and more Queenslanders are going to bed hungry. The latest consumer report revealing some household items have doubled in price. But the good news is there is some relief on the horizon.
New year, same cost of living pain. Grocery prices packing the ultimate punch.
It's a really big hit to the hip pocket and people are finding it hard.
Compare the Market has analysed 29 everyday grocery items over the past 4 years, many of which are recording major price hikes.
No aisle was exempt from inflation. Some of the common grocery staples increased by more than 40%.
Menini Classico 500 gram extra virgin olive oil seeing a 100% increase from $12 to $24. McCain's 500 gram mixed vegetable bag was $2.60, now $4. Even the 10-pack of Twinings tea has increased by 50%. And Aussie favourites aren't exempt either. Milo, Wheat Bix and Tim Tams also creeping up in cost.
It's really due to a range of factors, increased cost of transportation, the conflict overseas at the moment, and even these recent weather events are all impacting these higher prices we're seeing.
Price hikes are clearly hurting household budgets. Foodbank's 2023 report revealing 22% of Queenslanders are severely food insecure, regularly going hungry. The Premier now urging supermarkets to think of the consumer.
I've asked all of the major grocery stores to meet with me to explain why our farmers are getting less for their products while we're paying more for the food that feeds our families.
Some price relief is forecast to come soon.
The recent inflation data shows that we may have passed the peak, so hopefully we do see some of those grocery prices come down and cool a bit.
But in the meantime,
there are savings to be made if you just spend a little bit of time researching, maybe going to different stores for certain items where they're cheaper, maybe leaving the kids at home so you don't impulse buy.
Bella Schwarzenegger, 9 News.
Lily Greer is back now with our full weather forecast. Lily, it was nice to see some well-deserved sunshine on the weekend.
Oh, Aislin, it was such a beautiful weekend right across the southeast. There was sunshine and blue skies in so many places. But unfortunately today it's back to work and back to your regular storm season programming. How about that drizzle today? Take a look at this vision we recorded out at Redcliffe today. There were huge downpours on the north side and north of Brisbane. That on again, off again rain, it just really stuck around for most of today. And unfortunately that drizzle is going to continue in the coming days. Let's get stuck into today's temperatures though. It was so muggy outside today. Adelaide, 28 degrees on the Sunshine Coast, 29 at Redcliffe, 29 in Brisbane, 28.5 in the Redlands and 30 at Coolangatta. You can see from above that this monsoon trough and low in north, they are triggering heavy rain and storms. Other troughs causing showers right across the country. In terms of how tomorrow looks, well, Sydney-siders are in for a top of 27 and a very high chance of rain. In Melbourne, a top of 30 degrees. In Adelaide, hot, a top of 34, 33 and partly cloudy. 31 rain and a possible storm in Darwin, 23 in Canberra. And down in Hobart, hometown of the new Danish Queen, 29 degrees and sunny. Back home in Queensland and looking up north, 32 and rainy in Cairns, much the same in Townsville, 31 in Mackay, 33 in Rockhampton, 31 and rainy in Bundaberg. Moving south, the chance of a thunderstorm across much of the southeast coast area tomorrow, 28 in Noosa and outer Caboolture, 28 and rainy in Manly, 28 in Logan, 27 at Surfers. Out on the bay tomorrow, winds east to southeasterly, 15 to 20 knots, seas 1 to 1.5 metres. In Brisbane tomorrow, a top of 29 degrees and a very high chance of showers and the chance of a thunderstorm. As for the rest of the week, temperatures will hover around that 30 to 31 degree mark. The on and off again rain will be sticking around too, so too will the chance of a thunderstorm till around Friday. In Ipswich, temperatures just above the 30 mark for much of the week. Showers are sticking around as well as the chance of thunderstorms. On the Gold Coast, for the week ahead, temperatures below the 31 degree mark, a bit of rain hanging around and the potential for storm activity too. And up on the Sunshine Coast, temperatures around the 30 degree mark and a medium to high chance of rain over the next week, and the chance of a thunderstorm sticking around for much of the week too. Aislin, when it comes to our tropical cyclone forecast, the Bureau of Meteorology is predicting a tropical low will form in the Coral Sea over the next week. It'll strengthen over the weekend before turning around and heading back towards our coastline in a southwest direction with a 25% chance of turning into a tropical cyclone. The good news is it's not expected to impact our coastline over the next week, but we will be keeping an eye on that over the next week.
We'll need to do that, Lily. Thanks very much. That is 9 News Queensland for this evening. Good night.